Imagine a massive laboratory, a marvel of human ingenuity, orbiting 250 miles above Earth, a beacon of international cooperation and scientific discovery. For over 25 years, the International Space Station has been humanity's foothold in the cosmos, a place where astronauts live, work, and push the boundaries of what's possible. But now this incredible achievement is facing a crisis so severe it could bring the entire mission crashing down. Literally. Cracks are spreading, air is leaking, and there's no backup plan. NASA is sounding the alarm, and the clock is ticking. This isn't just a problem, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Lives are at risk, billions of dollars are on the line, and the future of space exploration hangs in the balance. Buckle up, because what's happening aboard the ISS is nothing short of shocking, and it's going to leave you speechless. Let's set the scene. The ISS is a football field-sized masterpiece, a floating city in space that's been continuously occupied since 1998. It's a symbol of what humanity can achieve when nations like the United States, Russia, Japan, and others put aside their differences to chase a common goal. Astronauts aboard the station conduct experiments that could revolutionize medicine, technology, and our understanding of the universe, from growing crystals for cancer drugs to testing how humans can survive long-term in space. The ISS is a hub of innovation. But beneath its gleaming exterior, trouble has been brewing for years, and it's reached a breaking point. The station is falling apart, and NASA's own safety experts are calling this the riskiest chapter in its history. What's gone wrong? How did we get here? And what happens if this orbiting lifeline fails? The heart of the problem lies in the station's aging infrastructure, particularly in one critical component, the Russian Zvezda module. This module is the backbone of the ISS, providing power, life support, and propulsion to keep the station in its stable orbit. Without it, the ISS wouldn't function. But here's the kicker. Zvezda was built in the mid-1980s, originally as a backup for Russia's Mir space station. By the time it was launched in 2000, it had already been sitting in storage for over a decade. Now, nearly 40 years after its construction, it's showing its age in the most terrifying way possible. Cracks have appeared in its hull, and air is leaking out at an alarming rate. Since 2019, these leaks have tripled, with the worst coming from a section called the PRK vestibule, a docking port that connects Zvezda to visiting spacecraft. Astronauts have had to seal off this section when it's not in use to stop precious air from escaping into the void. Imagine being 250 miles above Earth, knowing the only thing keeping you alive is a module that's literally falling apart. It's a nightmare scenario, and it's happening right now. What's causing these leaks? Nobody knows for sure, and that's part of what makes this so terrifying. Russian engineers suspect it's due to high cyclic fatigue from micro-vibrations, tiny tremors that stress the module's aluminum and stainless steel structure over time. The harsh environment of space doesn't help. The ISS is bombarded by thousands of micrometeorites every year, tiny specks of debris traveling at speeds that can punch holes through metal. Aluminum, which makes up much of Zvezda's hull, is lightweight but not as durable as other materials. Over decades, these impacts have taken their toll, creating weak points that are now splitting open. Some experts point to the module's design, calling it brittle and poorly suited for the long-term punishment of space. Others wonder if manufacturing flaws from the 1980s are finally catching up. Whatever the cause, The result is the same: a ticking time bomb orbiting Earth at 17,000 miles per hour. NASA's Safety Advisory Panel, a group of experts tasked with keeping the agency's missions safe, has raised the alarm to the highest level. Risk level 5 out of 5. That's as bad as it gets. In a meeting on April 17th, 2025, they laid out the grim reality. The ISS is in critical condition, and there's no clear plan to fix it. The cracks in Zvezda aren't the only problem. Spare parts for the station are running out, many of them no longer manufactured. Spacesuits, critical for spacewalks to repair the station, are outdated and in short supply. And then there's the budget, or lack thereof. In 2023, NASA spent $1.03 billion just to keep the ISS running, but proposed cuts could slash that funding, leaving the agency scrambling to maintain a station that's already on life support. It's like trying to keep a vintage car on the road with no parts, no mechanics, and no money for gas. The situation is dire, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Let's talk about what happens if the ISS fails. The station orbits Earth at an altitude of about 250 miles, held in place by its propulsion systems. If those systems fail, or the leaks become uncontrollable, the ISS could lose its stable orbit and begin to plummet. NASA has a plan to deorbit the station safely by 2030, using a special vehicle being developed by SpaceX to guide it into a remote part of the Pacific Ocean. But here's the gut punch. That vehicle won't be ready for years, and if the ISS needs to come down sooner, there's no backup. An uncontrolled re-entry would be a disaster of unimaginable scale. The ISS is massive. Over 900,000 pounds of metal, solar panels and equipment. If it broke apart in the atmosphere, debris could rain down over populated areas, endangering lives and causing billions in damage. One safety expert warned that the risk to the public from an uncontrolled breakup would be increased by orders of magnitude. Picture chunks of metal, the size of cars crashing through cities or towns. It's a scenario that keeps NASA up at night, and it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. The human cost is even more heartbreaking. Right now, astronauts are living aboard the ISS, working in an environment that's becoming increasingly dangerous. Imagine being one of them, floating in a module where you can hear the hiss of air escaping, knowing that every crack could be the one that dooms you. These are real people, mothers, fathers, scientists, heroes, who've dedicated their lives to advancing humanity's reach into space. They trust NASA and its partners to keep them safe, but the agency is struggling to hold it together. Recent missions have only added to the tension. The Russian Progress MS-29 supply ship arrived with a foul odor, raising concerns about contamination. Boeing's Starliner, meant to be a reliable crew transport, nearly failed to dock last year due to thruster issues, leaving astronauts like Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore stranded for 9 months. And a Northrop Grumman cargo mission was delayed last month after its capsule was damaged before launch, forcing astronauts to ration supplies. Every day aboard the ISS feels like a roll of the dice, and the odds are getting worse. NASA isn't sitting idly by, but their options are limited. They've scheduled an emergency meeting with Roscosmos, Russia's space agency, in Moscow to tackle the Zvezda leaks. The goal is to find the root cause, assess the risks, and develop a repair plan. But cooperation between NASA and Roscosmos is strained. The two agencies have a history of working together, but geopolitical tensions and differing priorities make consensus hard to reach. Roscosmos has downplayed the leaks in the past, while NASA is pushing for urgent action. If they can't agree on a solution, the ISS could be left in limbo, with no way to stop the cracks from spreading. Meanwhile, NASA is pouring resources into developing SpaceX's deorbit vehicle, but even that comes with risks. If funding dries up or development hits delays, the timeline could slip, leaving the station vulnerable. It's a race against time, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. The emotional weight of this crisis is impossible to ignore. The ISS isn't just a machine, it's a dream, a testament to what humanity can achieve when we dare to reach for the stars. For decades, it's inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. Children have looked up at the night sky, watching its bright speck glide across the heavens, and imagined themselves aboard. Astronauts have risked their lives to build it, piece by piece, in the vacuum of space. To see it falter now, to imagine it burning up in the atmosphere or crashing to Earth, feels like a betrayal of that dream. It's not just about metal and wires, it's about hope, ambition, and the belief that we can overcome any challenge. Losing the ISS would be a blow to our collective spirit, a reminder that even our greatest achievements can crumble if we don't fight to protect them. But the crisis goes beyond the ISS itself. It's a wake-up call for the future of space exploration. NASA is already planning the transition to private space stations, with companies like Axiom Space and Blue Origin developing their own orbital habitats. But these projects are years away from being ready, and the ISS was supposed to bridge the gap. If it fails prematurely, the United States could lose its presence in low Earth orbit, ceding ground to other nations like China, which has its own space station, Tiangong. The stakes aren't just scientific, they're strategic. Space is the next frontier, and the ISS is America's foothold. Letting it slip away could have consequences for decades, weakening our position in a new era of space competition. It's a chilling thought. The nation that put men on the moon could be left watching from the sidelines as others claim the cosmos. There's another layer to this that hits hard. The budget. NASA's funding is under threat, with proposed cuts that could gut the agency's ability to maintain the ISS or develop new technologies. In 2023, the ISS cost $1.03 billion to operate, and that number isn't getting smaller as the station ages. Every repair, every supply mission, every spacewalk costs money, and the piggy bank is running dry. Some politicians argue that the ISS is a relic, a drain on resources that could be better spent elsewhere. But what they don't see is the ripple effect. The ISS isn't just a science lab, it's a driver of innovation, creating jobs, advancing technology, and inspiring the next generation of STEM leaders. Slashing its budget is like pulling the plug on a patient who's still fighting to live. It's short-sighted, and it puts everything NASA has built at risk. So what can be done? The first step is fixing the leaks in Zvezda, and that starts with NASA and Roscosmos working together like their lives depend on it, because they do. Engineers need to pinpoint the cause of the cracks, whether it's material fatigue, micrometeorite damage, or something else entirely. Temporary patches might buy time, but a long-term solution could require replacing parts of the module, a task that would demand multiple spacewalks and billions of dollars. Meanwhile, NASA must fast-track the SpaceX deorbit vehicle, ensuring it's ready before 2030. That means securing funding, streamlining development, and preparing for the worst-case scenario. Beyond that, the agency needs to rally public support. The ISS isn't just a government project. It's humanity's project. People need to know what's at stake, from the astronauts risking their lives to the discoveries that could save lives on Earth. This is a story of courage, ingenuity, and survival, and it's up to all of us to demand that our leaders keep the ISS alive. Let's zoom out for a moment and think about what the ISS represents. It's more than a space station. It's a bridge to the future. Every experiment conducted aboard, every lesson learned, brings us closer to the day when humans will walk on Mars, build colonies on the Moon, or even venture to the stars. The ISS is teaching us how to live in space, how to survive in environments where a single mistake can be fatal. If we lose it now, we lose decades of knowledge, momentum, and inspiration. The astronauts aboard the station aren't just scientists, they're pioneers, paving the way for humanity's next great leap. Their courage in the face of danger is a reminder of what we're capable of, and their mission is too important to let fail. As we speak, the ISS is hurtling through space, a fragile oasis in the void. Every second, it's bombarded by radiation, debris, and the unrelenting forces of nature. Yet it endures, carrying the hopes of billions. The cracks in its hull are a warning, a call to action. We can't ignore them, and we can't afford to fail. NASA, Roscosmos, and the global community must come together to save this irreplaceable asset. The alternative is unthinkable. A fiery end to one of humanity's greatest achievements, a tragedy that would echo for generations. But there's still hope. With determination, innovation, and a refusal to give up, we can keep the ISS flying. We can protect the astronauts who call it home. And we can ensure that this beacon of human potential continues to shine. Picture this: a future where the ISS is not a memory, but a stepping stone. A future where private space stations orbit Earth, where lunar bases hum with activity, where Mars is within reach. That future is possible, but only if we act now. The ISS is fighting for its life, and it needs us, every one of us, to fight for it too. Share this story, demand action, and remind the world what's at stake. The International Space Station isn't just a machine, it's a dream worth saving. Let's not let it